Hello everybody and welcome to the Master and Drum Whiskey Room. My name is Jason C, and if you're a subscriber, thanks so much for coming back and watching this episode. If you're new to the channel looking for the latest in whiskey and bourbon news and reviews, you have found the right place. So hit that subscribe button below and hit that bell notification so you know when I'm releasing a new video, and you can join in on one of my live streams. Welcome to the 6th episode in a special series called Double Bass, where you, the viewers, get to pick two great whiskeys to put head to head to see which one comes out on top. So after the last episode and having a great peated Scotch matchup, today we have a battle of some high-proof budget bourbons that was voted on by Jack of all blades to put Old Grandad 114 versus Fighting Cock Bourbon, which comes in at 103 proof. A great battle between some solid budget bourbons, so let's get a closer look. Fighting Cock is one of several Heaven Hill brands that falls in the $20 and under range. Bernie Lubbers, an American whiskey brand ambassador for Heaven Hill, stated that Heaven Hill likes to do things better and cheaper than the competitors, which is why Fighting Cock has the name it does and comes in at 103 proof. Fighting Cock formerly carried a 6-year age statement, and that was removed in 2015 and is now bottled as a non-age statement. Based on its labeling, the law requires the youngest bourbon in the bottle to be at least 4 years old. However, Heaven Hill has stated they continue to include older whiskey in the blend. Heaven Hill also refers to this brand as the Kickin' Chicken. This is 103 proof, about 6 years old, and only 20 bucks. Old Grandad 114 is the younger, higher proof iteration of the Jim Beam High Rye Mash Bill that also includes Basil Hayden and the standard Old Grandad and Old Grandad Bottle and Bond. Containing nearly double the rye content of the rest of the Jim Beam product line, Old Grandad and its lineup are often go-to pours for those seeking a little spice in their bourbon. In my experience with Old Grandad 114, it's one of the best value bourbons on the market. OGD 114 is 6 years old, 114 proof, and can be had for about 26 bucks. So if this is your first time watching a Double Bass episode, this is how I score it. I will give a score between 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest in 4 different categories: nose, palate, finish, and consistency. The budget bourbon with the highest total score at the end of the matchup wins. Alright guys, so as I mentioned, I'll be doing this one blind because I've never had Fighting Cock before, so I'm excited to put these two head to head. So thanks again to Jack of all blades for making such a great matchup suggestion. So before we get started, let's mix them up. Alright guys, so keep an eye on the scoreboard right here. Help you keep track of the scores. Let's go back and forth with our first category. This will be Glass A, this will be Glass B. Let's start with the nose and let's see what we get. Here we go. There's a ton of citrus flavor that really punches out right off the bat. Man, a lot of cinnamon, a lot of spice. I mean, the orange flavor in this is just really coming through. There's definitely a good amount of rye in here. A good amount of vanilla, some caramel. There's an intense cinnamon caramel flavor going on in Glass A. I really like it. It's definitely coming off very strong in the alcohol department. There's a big, strong alcohol kick here. Yeah, I mean, that could mean a little bit. I mean, I'm not sure. I've never had the Fighting Cock before, and I know it's 103 proof as compared to the 114 proof. But I mean, just because it's 103 proof doesn't mean it can't come off as alcohol in the nose as well. So, yeah, a lot of cinnamon, a lot of caramel. There's a little bit of a nutty characteristic in there as well. Yeah, it's good, but it's definitely got a big alcohol punch to it. All right, let's go to letter B and see what we get here. That one also has like a roasted nut type characteristic to it as well. That's really nice. This one is a little bit more fruit forward. I'm getting maybe there is some citrus in there, but a little bit more of a peach or an apple going on in here. This one is not as alcohol forward. This one's kind of nice on the nose. You're definitely getting some of those intense caramel vanillas as well. Yeah, I like that honey roasted peanut aspect to it that this one has going on. It's really nice on the nose. But yeah, there's a more of a fruitiness characteristic to it. It's a little bit more rounded. A little bit of more of an oak characteristic. This one was really cinnamon orange forward. This one has getting a little bit more of a rounded nose here. Yeah, this is like fruit, caramel, vanilla, some of those apple characteristics. There's some, yeah, that honey roasted peanut's really coming through. It's really good. Yeah, all right. So I really like, both of them are really good on the nose, but I think one of them just kind of stood out a little bit more. All right, guys, so for letter A, I'm going to give this one a 3.2 on the nose for this one. This one had a lot of flavor to it coming off the nose. That orange and that cinnamon flavor really came through very strong. Vanilla, caramel, a little bit of an oak characteristic there. But also, that also came with, packaged up with kind of a big alcohol flavor too, which isn't always the thing you want to, smell in the nose right away. I'm going to give letter B here a 3.5. Letter B here actually had a much more rounded nose. It wasn't as alcohol forward. You got some fruit characteristics. You got some apple. You got a little bit of a peach apricot characteristic in there. There was some oak. There's that beautiful honey roasted peanut in there. There was a nuttiness to it in this glass as well, but I feel like it was getting a little bit more overpowered by the alcohol note. So this one a 3.5 and this one a 3.2. All right, it is time for the next category. Let's go to the palate and let's start off with letter A. Here we go. Cheers. Wow, there is some delicious spice in here. A lot of spiciness coming through. Orange, more of that cinnamon, definitely some black pepper. That coats the palate pretty well too. I really like that one. But yeah, that's the intensity on that pour is just really just remarkable. I mean, this is a flavor bomb. Let's go for another sip here. All right, so that one was much more rye forward. But you're still getting those orange, that cinnamon spice. That nutty characteristic comes through right on the back of the palate there that I was getting on the nose. I mean, it's there. But I mean, this is just a huge rush of flavor. Man, it's sticking around, and then right from the tip of the tongue, the rye spice just carries through from the tip of the tongue all the way to the back of the palate. It kind of lingers on the sides of your tongue a little bit too. It's almost working its way back forward. Really crazy. Let's go for another sip here. Cheers. Yeah, this is super citrusy. Got a little bit of a lemon aspect in there now too. But there's such a ton of spice here. Really intensely spicy. The orange, the lemon, vanilla caramel all up front. It comes through, and then, I mean, this is like creme brulee topped with like maybe some lemon and orange zest, and then sprinkled with cinnamon and black pepper. Like, that's what I get on my palate. That's what it feels like. Really, really intensely flavored. Absolutely delicious. Really like that one. All right, let's go for a quick sip of water here. All right, guys, let's go to letter B. Let's see what we get here. Cheers. So that one, that honey roasted peanut characteristic is really coming through. That's the first thing I taste on the palate right now. There is some vanilla. There's a little bit of that honey characteristic, but it's got a very rich honey nut characteristic to it. Let's go for another sip. So on that sip, now you start getting the rye spice and some pepperiness characteristic to it. Not as intense as this one, but definitely kind of lingers there a little bit. This one is a tad bit thinner on the palate than this one, but it coats pretty well. It definitely gives you some of those fruity notes too that I was getting on the nose. I am getting a good apple / peach type note to it as well. It's not as strong as that honey nut characteristic that's really kind of taking over. Let's go for another sip here. That's good. It's really sweet. It's got good balance. All right, so yeah, the more you sip on this one, it definitely gets sweeter. The pepperiness starts going away a little bit, but man, all those sweet flavors, it's really sweet. Yeah, that honey and that vanilla, like that honey vanilla type characteristic to it is really delicious. It leaves ever so slightly that pepperiness that you get on the back of the palate. It kind of goes away a little bit, but it definitely sticks around somewhat. Not as intense as this glass, but definitely still really good flavor in that one. All right, guys, so let's score these. For letter A, I'm going to give this one a 4.2. This one just has a rush and onslaught of flavor on the palate. It sticks around, it's peppery, it's spicy, it's citrus forward, there's a lot of vanilla. It's a little bit more creamy on the palate than this one is. I mean, just a really intense experience on the palate in letter A here. All right, so for letter B here, I'm going to give this one a 3.8. This one wasn't nearly as intense as this one. Still very good on the palate. That honey nut characteristic to it, the fruity, the apple, the citrus notes I was getting there, a little bit of a peach note. Really, really good. There's a little bit more of an oak characteristic on here too than I'm getting than on this one. This one is just pure spice and flavor and citrus. This one gives you a little bit more of a rounded flavor profile. But as for the palate though, this one definitely took it as far as intensity. All right, to our next category, let's go to the finish. Let's start with letter A. Here we go. Cheers. Yeah, the finish on this one, I love it. I mean, it is just lingering. It just kind of dances on the back of your palate. Then as it works its way down, gives you a good Kentucky hug there. You definitely feel it a little bit, but it's not overly intense. I think all the sweetness that you get, it kind of gets cut off in the front of the, so in the front of the palate, you get the beautiful vanilla caramels, and then in the mid palate, all of a sudden you get that rush of spice and cinnamon and pepper, and then on the back of the palate as it finishes off, then all those sweet flavors come back. You get the vanillas, the caramels, you get a little bit of that nutty characteristic, maybe a little bit of a honey in that one as well too, and then while you kind of go through all that, then the spice just lingers on the back of the palate. Really nice. Let's go for another sip here. Yeah, still lingers. Yeah, the flavors are all still pretty much, I mean, they're rushing through. It's still pretty intense. It's leveled off a little bit, but the one thing that's really kind of reigning true here is the attack on that mid palate, that spiciness, and the finish. The finish lingers, stays peppery. Beautiful finish on that whiskey. All right, let's go to glass B and see what we get. Here we go. Cheers. I like the finish on that one. The finish is really nice. Definitely has a peppery aspect to it. Definitely more honey nut forward on the finish there. Some vanillas, a little bit of caramels. I feel like you get more of an oak influence on the finish on this one. It's a little bit more of an oak characteristic. It's really good. Let's go for another sip here. Cheers. Yeah, those fruit flavors are becoming more intense now, especially on the finish. You're getting more of that peach and apple type note to it. Maybe a hint of cherry as well. There's some oak there, pepper. The pepper does linger on the back of the palate, but as you feel it going down, I would say this is a more short to medium type finish on this one. It's not too long, but you can definitely feel it. Definitely kind of lingers there. The pepperiness. Actually, the pepperiness is still kind of lingering there. Let's go for one more sip here. Yeah, I like that. The finish on this one is really good too. You get oak, you get some citrus, you get that honey roasted peanut characteristic. The vanilla. And it definitely lingers there a little bit too. Maybe not nearly as long as this one, but that one has a really nice finish. So let's score them. All right, guys, so for finish, I'm going to give letter A 4.5. The finish on this one is awesome. It's spicy, it lingers, it's flavorful, it just hangs around, it makes you want to keep drinking more of it. It's not super long. This one I would say is more medium. This one kind of, once it starts working its way down, you definitely feel it, but then it kind of stops about midway all the way down. But at the same time, it just sits there and it lingers, and it just kind of leaves this pepperiness on the back of your palate. Really, really good on that one. For letter B, I'm going to give this one, I gave it a 4.3. This one was really good finish too, really enjoyed it. I like the mix of flavors. You got more oak here, you got more honey nut, you got some more, some vanilla, some caramel there. You got a little bit more of an apple cherry note also on the finish as well. But it just didn't really last as long as this one. I mean, it was good, but it didn't come close to the intensity of that one. All right, guys, it is time for our final category, and that is consistency. Let's see if these two glasses have stayed pretty close from the first sip all the way to these sips I'm about to take. So here we go. Cheers. Oh, man. This one, it's crazy. This one has stayed the exact same from the first sip to this one. It is spicy. It is intense. It's flavorful. The finish still is the same length. That is really good. Go for one more sip here. Yeah. What can I say? That if there is a consistent bourbon, then that one is it. This one just stays intense. It stays cinnamony, spicy, lingers, finishes the same length from sip to sip. The pepperiness on the back of the palate is the same from sip to sip. Stellar bourbon in that glass. All right, let's go for a quick sip of water. All right, let's go to letter B, and let's find out how consistent it is. Here we go. Cheers. I got to say, this one is also pretty consistent. It has stayed, if anything, The only thing that it's gotten a little bit sweeter. The spiciness that I had on the first few sips have kind of gone away a little bit, and now the fruit flavors and the a little bit more of the oak spice is coming to the forefront. Yeah, really good. I mean, I think most people would like that aspect of it. Let's go for another sip here. Yeah, so the sweetness really stays true. The one thing though that it loses a little bit from sip to sip is the finish just gets a little bit less intense. I gave the finish on this a 4.3 for, basically for what you're experiencing on the back of the palate and as it works its way down. But the more sips you take, that finish just kind of starts dying down a little bit and it just becomes very sweet, very pleasing, very nice. Let's go for one last sip here. Yeah, so on that sip, that final sip there, it stayed really, really sweet. It's just that the finish just kind of goes away a little bit as your palate gets used to it. Whereas this one just stays and attacks the palate and you definitely feel it. And it just stays exactly the same from the first sip to the last. All right, guys, so it's time to score consistency. And with glass A here, I'm giving this one a full-blown 5. One of the most consistent whiskeys I've had. This thing from the beginning has given me the same exact experience that I've gotten in the from the final sips that I just took. Beginning, I mean, vanilla caramel sweetness, and all of a sudden this spiciness takes over. Orange, cinnamon, a little bit of that black pepper that just lingers there. Then as it finishes out, then all of a sudden it gets a little bit, all those sweet flavors come back. Then you get a little bit more vanilla and caramels again. But all the while, that pepperiness just kind of sits there and it lingers. This one gets a full-blown 5. For letter B here, I gave this one a 4.5. As far as consistency, from the front to the mid-palate, it stays very consistent. The back end, though, that finish, it just kind of goes away as you keep sipping on it. It gets really sweet. If you would like a sweeter bourbon, not such a spice kick, then this one would probably be more for you. I just like feeling that intensity and that spiciness all the way through every time I take a sip. This one, I feel like I would wait a little longer before I go to the next sip because the finish does kind of go away quickly. Whereas this one, I just want to keep sipping on it because of the way it just lingers. All right, guys, so for the final score, as you can see in the scoreboard, the letter A comes in with a 16.9 and letter B comes in with a 16.1. So it was pretty close. But I think for the main categories, especially finish and consistency, letter A just took it home here. So let's find out what it is. It is, and I knew it was it. It was the Old Grandad 114 coming in with a final score of 16.9. Old Grandad 114 has to be one of the best budget bourbons on the market. Such intense, delicious flavor, especially if you're into high rye and spicy bourbons. Now the Fighting Cock from Heaven Hill, I gotta say, this one really surprised me. In the beginning, I really wasn't sure which one could have been, which was what, until really that finish kicked in. Then I kind of figured out that this one was the 114. But Fighting Cock for 20 bucks, this is a damn good bourbon. This one has a little bit more of a sweeter characteristic to it, not as intense as the 114. So if you're in the stores and you're looking at 114, you really like that spice, that high rye characteristic of a bourbon, and you don't want to, really spend a lot of money, for 26 bucks, that old Grandad 114 is the way to go. If you want something a little bit sweeter, a little bit easier as you keep sipping on it, but still provide some really good flavor to it, I'm telling you, Fighting Cock was damn good. I had never had it before, and I'm glad I tried it side by side. So both really stellar bourbons for the price, but Old Grandad 114 is the one that took it. All right, guys, well, thanks again for watching this episode of the Mash and Drum Whiskey Room. I really appreciate you coming by watching this matchup of Old Grandad 114 versus Fighting Cock. Really hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button below. Please hit that like button. If you haven't yet, find me on Instagram and also find me on Twitter. Let me know if you guys have had these and put these two head to head, or if you're going to put them head to head. Don't miss this opportunity to, down in the comments, let me know what next matchup you want me to do. If you have a really cool idea, you guys have been coming in with really great suggestions. I really appreciate it. You can get your name shouted out on the channel as well. And like I always say, it is not about the whiskey, it is the people you share with. So cheers, and I'm gonna have some more Old Grandad. Take care, everybody.